Hey everybody, this is the Brainrack podcast, episode 4, and on this podcast we talk about stories from our Taekwondo years.
And it's a little bit of an experiment. The other episodes have been a lot more of a book report or a topic discussion or presenting a case in a debate. This is more lessons we learned from Taekwondo interspersed with a bunch of stories, bunch of reminiscing, old war stories. I hope you like it.
We had a good time. Enjoy. Hey everybody, this is the Brainrack podcast. I am Jordy.
And I'm Troy.
And today we're going to talk about stories from Taekwondo.
More like really important takeaways and how they've affected our lives. It's not going to be little stories.
Stories are awesome, man.
Okay, it's going to be stories from Taekwondo.
We should talk about, like,
our background.
What we did, like how we got into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me, how did you get into Taekwondo?
Oh my. Actually, I don't know. I think my mom suggested it. She probably saw some ad. And I remember, I think I was 9 years old.
I started when I was 10.
Yep. Something like 9 or 10. Something like that. And I think she just saw some ad. She was like, hey, you want to try Taekwondo? Because before that, Jordy had tried a couple athletic things and was not very good at it.
Which is actually so surprising because after you knew Jordy, you didn't have to even say his last name. It was just like Jordy because he was so good at Taekwondo. And I'm not even saying that because I'm sitting here and he has a gun on me. Like, he was actually really good. I was a little better, but he was really good.
Thank you. Anyway, I tried soccer and track and baseball. Nope, not at all.
Yeah, I tried team sports as well. So even in team sports, I still was the individual. I was the goalie. Mm-hmm. And so, my team was horrible. We had no defense, so I was the defense.
Yeah.
So I actually was a really good goalie because I was just willing to break my body.
You're just kind of doing your own thing. Yeah.
But what I didn't like about team sports was that I was on a travel team, but it was a bunch of 10, 11-year-olds, and I was getting punished for my colleagues on the team not doing what the coach said, because the coach would tell me to do something. I'd be like, okay,
cool,
and then I would just do it as best as I could. And it wasn't always perfect, but I would just do it because the coach tells you, the coach knows best, and the other people would not. And then the coach would make us all run, and so a lot of the practice just turned into running. And I was the goalie. It's like, come on, man. If anything, I need to get fatter so that I'm able to defend.
Surface area is just pure
and it
math.
The coaches treated everyone with no respect. Mm-hmm. And then I started Taekwondo, and my story was I was driving to the PSAT. My mom was. And, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. So before I'd even heard of Taekwondo, I was watching Dragon Ball Z. I remember
Me too.
Rurouni Kenshin, that show with the traveling samurai.
Oh my God.
I watched Bruce Lee's documentary. I went to Half Price Books because I've always been nerdy, and I bought a book about a guy who read about Bruce Lee and started training martial arts by himself. And this was before.
And you're like, I'm hooked.
And it was destiny. And I was driving to the PSAT, didn't want to go. I almost got out of it. And it was far away, but I look to my right and I just see a big sign that says karate. And turns out
you're like, that's it.
I was like, yep, sign me up, Mom. And the reason they have to have this sign that says karate is because when it said Taekwondo, people were calling and trying to order Chinese. Because Americans are stupid.
Karate is like, hey.
But I wouldn't have gone if it was Taekwondo, but I was like, yes, okay, karate. So
karate sounds cool.
Went there, and then immediately I was really bad, but I was respected. And even from the beginning, there was a culture of respect. You would say yes sir, yes ma'am.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily like the yes sir, yes ma'am stuff, but they treated you with respect. Like if they started out, they assumed you were competent and you were going to do a good job. Whereas the team sports experiences I've had started out assuming you were stupid, made you run a lot to confirm you're stupid, and then it was horrible.
Yeah, I remember going, and I wasn't like super sold on it, but I think my parents had said, "Hey, why don't you try Taekwondo? They have some classes or something like that." I don't even remember what the situation was, but I remember saying it was more for me like okay, like sure, I'll try it. I used to watch Dragon Ball Z. That seems cool.
Dude,
So
and then
I tried it.
Mr. Kessler was so jacked.
Yeah, well, when I started, I feel like he wasn't super jacked.
Well, I'm sure we're famous enough he's going to listen to this, so you better take that back. He's going to be in your house right now.
Not that he wasn't.
I remember doing a self-defense clinic.
Compared to where he is now.
He was like, guess how much I weigh? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like 263 pounds. And now, for some context, he got on this fitness kick, and it's been years now, and he's like a jack 210, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not to say that he wasn't in shape, but I'm just like comparing him to then to now. Like he's super jacked now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But anyway.
But long story, just super.
Slightly not long.
Yeah. What? But we both got into it, and then, it was immediately.
I loved it.
This is awesome.
It was
especially
awesome.
sparring. I remember being an orange belt, which there was white belt, yellow belt, orange belt. And they said, okay, so you're going to do some sparring today. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And they're like, so just go. Like, wait, so I get to hit them?
Hit people?
And then kick them? I'm supposed to kick them?
I'm in.
And then it was basically just complete and total obsession.
Yep.
Because it's like, why would I care about school? And I mean, I still did good in school because of the social contract with my parents. But like this, I just want to fight people all the time.
Yeah. I liked it. I got in there and I was just kind of trying it out, but then I don't know, I got into it. I felt like I was kind of getting the hang of it pretty quickly. At least what they were showing us. Like we'd have to like punch the targets or like knife handed across the floor, the square targets,
Dude, you remember Dodgeball?
Oh gosh.
Here's
what happened at a Taekwondo class, right?
What they have to do to when there's a kids class is these kids are unruly little wild chimpanzees.
Yep.
And you can't just tell them, okay, we're going to be very disciplined and do lots of punches because the kids are going to leave. And if the kids leave, the parents don't pay. And if the parents don't pay, don't have a business.
No business.
So got to weave fun into it. So one of the things they would do at the end of every kids class is they play dodgeball.
The best thing.
And
ever.
I got pretty good at dodging. And and it was just so ridiculously fun. I'm like, okay, I'm sold again.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a fun thing. Like it was war.
Oh yeah. I was gonna put my body on the line.
For sure.
It was combat.
It was combat at the end of every Taekwondo class, and I will always remember that. But anyway, so we're going through Taekwondo.
But we both got I got my 3rd degree senior black belt.
I got 2nd degree senior.
Almost testing for my 4th degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I started when I was 10 and I quit when I injured my back at like 21. And, I was going to college and coming back and doing less Taekwondo, more MMA. But, it was a good 10 years solid of my life of just, I would do that. I watch cartoons. That's what's up. That's all.
Yeah, I was there for around 8 years, nine years, something like that.
And so our thought,
was basically
I'm jumping in.
That was basically formative for Troy and me. Those were the years. Like we spent the second half of our childhood, basically, and into adulthood, doing that. So
because
it was super formative.
Everyone else would look around and because the social norms were so different in a Taekwondo school. A Taekwondo school, it's almost like its own little.
Who says yes, sir?
I don't know if you've seen Spartacus, but there's like the little culture of the gladiators and everyone fights, and it was like almost a culture like that where we're really disciplined. It's respect. We're living a tradition of Korean martial arts, and you better be good. And, there was no room for weakness or crying or not doing what you're supposed to do. And then I'd see kids at school who, couldn't get their stuff together. And it's like, dude, I just tested for my black belt when I was 13 and I beat up grown men.
Yeah.
And you're complaining because you can't figure out your health homework?
I will say this. Oh my gosh, health class.
Dude, I would finish in like 10 minutes and sleep. They're like, how are you so smart? I'm like, don't talk to me.
Well, I think it's important to point out, though, even though it was super disciplined and awesome, it wasn't like Evil Dojo and Karate Kid.
No, that's correct.
It was not like all egotistical and run by just this megalomaniac. It was super disciplined, but very
Everyone was
humble.
intrinsically disciplined.
Yeah.
Because we would
There
look
was humility, though.
We would look up at our two instructors, Mr. Kessler and Mr. Bird.
Boom.
And they were both, I mean,
They're
to
so
me,
good.
when I was like 10, and even still, I mean,
Yeah.
like Kessler would demonstrate a kick and be like, okay, well, this is a jump, spin, hook kick.
Yep.
And would just stand there and then do it. And I'd just be like,
How did he?
how did you do that?
Yeah, it was
'Cause-
mind blowing.
And so, I mean, it was basically, we weren't forced at all to be disciplined. We were just like, okay,
More
so
inspired
what's
to be.
what's the path to be able to do that? Tell me what to do. And
And-
they're like, practice kicks all the time. Do your forms. Do all this. Like, okay.
And you know what? I think huge credit goes to both of them, because one of the things I wrote down for today to talk about was how neither one of them were showboaty, or
No.
they didn't like puff up or show off or talk smack, like 0%. They were both like super chill, calm, humble dudes.
And if you're curious, this is Fisher's Martial Arts.
Fisher's Martial Arts. Go there.
Go
Sign
find
up,
it on Facebook.
Sign up today.
Sign up. No, seriously, it'll change your kid's life.
Not kidding. If you're listening to this and have children, yeah, do it. Or just do it yourself. It's cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, they were both super humble and it was awesome. But basically, we went through that
We
experience.
became instructors. We learned everything.
Yeah, and we spent most of our waking hours just taekwondoing or school.
Yeah, and it was kind of just like, well, why do anything else? I mean,
Yeah.
I remember we'd go to I remember I went to so there's black belt camp where
Yeah,
they
in the
basically
summer.
imagine this: you're a 13-year-old kid. They teach you how to use weapons. They give you weapons. Now you get to go and you're supposed to like manage
a scream of
yourself.
sticks and
You're supposed to like
tonfas and-
manage yourself, and then it's like a week-long class. Well, we all would just fight each other with wooden sticks.
It was awesome.
It was great.
Well, before we just get too crazy, let's start sharing some stories.
But our kind of thought of this is we've had a couple other podcasts, but since this was such formative experience in both of our lives,
and then we shared this like the same
and
thing.
we shared
would do
it,
Yeah.
we were thinking, let's share some lessons we've learned that maybe our listeners, all three of you, can
We love you.
apply.
Yep. So what's one of the first lessons you talked about,
Okay.
or you
So
want to
my
talk about?
first lesson was morals.
Morals.
At the beginning
Let's do it.
of every Taekwondo class, we'd have to-
Everyone.
we'd have to say the tenets of Taekwondo.
Courtesy.
And looking back, it was kind of weird.
Integrity.
But courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirits. Then you'd have to say sir.
Or
Sir.
ma'am. Whoever.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then we'd have to say like other stuff. But doing that every single time that we did that, it was almost like a weird little mantra.
It's like brainwashing for good.
Like, yeah, it was seriously. I think the Hitler Youth used tactics like that.
I do.
Like,
I think
der
so.
Führer is so good.
Yeah.
Which in German means, never mind. But
Taekwondo is great.
yeah, that's what it means. But so, I mean, it was this backdrop. It was like when you think about a company, they always talk about how you have to have a company culture because the culture will drive the decision making.
It's true.
That was our culture. It was in even especially in the kids class. But I mean, even in regular decisions, let's say we were doing an instructor class, or we were, should this person pass testing? We would ask, I mean, have they shown perseverance? Or if they were being real antsy in the back and causing a big scene, be like, well, they didn't have very good self-control. I don't think we should pass them. And it was the baseline standard, everyone. And if you think about that, I mean, courtesy, okay, cool, integrity, perseverance, self-control, but indomitable spirit, I mean, that was like the baseline, indomitable, unable to be dominated. So like there was that culture of, oh, I'm sorry, you're really tired. Indomitable spirit, you cannot be beaten.
Exactly. And dominant. You can't be beaten, broken, nothing.
And it was great because we'd have role models. I remember when I was like 12, I got promoted / forced to start taking the adult class because I was like, I get this sparring thing. You're supposed to kick as hard as you can, right?
Exactly.
And so I was just beating the crap out of all the girls because I was like 12. And Kessler's like, hey, you've graduated to the adult class. And I'm like,
Congratulations.
yes. And I quickly was like,
No. These are grown men.
I remember, yeah, there was Mr. Munsell.
Oh, I have Mr. Munsell in my notes.
Dude,
man.
I've connected with some of them on LinkedIn.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like Mr. Rafe Snyder, remember him?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh my god.
I almost connected with Mr. His son was weird.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everyone. Just kidding. But yeah, you know, and so I think that the number one thing was that culture of those tenets.
Yeah.
For me at the beginning.
Well, to me, the coolest part was that the main instructors there just showed that. It wasn't just we said it. Like, for example, and this is something I remember all the time, I thought it was really cool, not only that I had a cool group of friends who were like all like teenage dudes, right, growing up there, but everyone in that group and the instructors would all be supportive and talk to like any of the younger kids, anybody in the school.
Yeah.
There was no like high and mighty
there were no
thing.
cliques.
There's no cliques. Like you had your friend group, but if there was a kid that came up and wanted to talk, like anybody in the core instructor groups, completely open to that kid, would talk to him, help him out, whatever. And I thought that was awesome. I mean, that doesn't happen in most places.
Yeah, and I remember because we were, since we had no jobs, I mean, we had nothing to do.
Yeah.
So Jordy and I got really good. I mean, because we were kind of just like the lone samurai type characters of, hey, oh my God, I'm so pissed I got hit in the head. I'm going to go practice kicks for hours. And eventually I got to the point where, I mean, we were getting respect. When I was 13, like adults were calling me sir because I was a higher rank than them, which was really weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was cool because it was like there was such a culture of...
It's pretty meritocracy.
They
there.
respected the merit and respected the belts.
Yeah, which was awesome. I think... Actually, I really liked the belts, just to riff on that. I feel like this is going to be super unorganized, but here we go.
You mean disorganized?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so...
We're out. Also, I got for my... Actually, just 'cause my parents are nice, gave us some really nice rum from Antigua. It's good. That's what's sponsoring this podcast today.
Sponsoring this podcast. So I thought the belts were really good because you could see the path to get better. Like it was very clear how you got better, and it seemed attainable because it's like black belt seems far away, but if you're a yellow belt, the next belt's orange belt. You're like, okay,
I think I might be able to get to that.
I can get to orange belt. Like I could do that.
And then after you start seeing these people go through it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is
possible.
This is everyone goes through this. Like a red belt spars
Yep.
a certain way.
Yep.
And a black belt spars a certain way.
So it wasn't judgment. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, gender, age, race. It doesn't matter. It just, oh, you're a brown belt right now. Cool. It's where you are. It's period. So I liked that.
Now what other thing? Because I've got some points here.
Go for it.
But I don't want to monopolize everything.
I say go.
Okay. So the next thing, and this was very important for me, was attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am the type of person that if you told me the way and the key to success was to eat 10 wine glasses, I would eat them as quick as I could.
Yep.
Because it's like, oh, perfect. You've given me the formula. Let's do it. But sometimes if there's not a real defined task, I'm slightly disorganized, if you can believe it. But so Taekwondo, we had something. So we had forms, which were memorized movements that everyone in Taekwondo America agreed upon. And then there was
every belt had a different form.
Every belt had a different form, and there was a correct way to do it coming from the top-down organization of Taekwondo America.
Yep.
And so when you were, when you'd go and you have to test for your forms, you'd have to do all the moves exactly. And looking back, I didn't really like the forms because I thought, this is stupid. Why isn't it just sparring? But now looking back again, I actually think they were very beneficial because there was a testing where, so I was a judge and Jordy was testing. Yep. And I was in charge of judging Jordy's form, and I knew Jordy's form because, as you're an instructor, you go through, all the forms. There's certain stances, and stances is kind of like if you think of a sitting stance where you squat down.
It's what your legs do.
Yeah, it's what your legs do. Yeah. And so you have to have all your stances correct. You got to have all your moves correct.
Feet pointed in the right direction.
If you're a black belt and you mess up your stance, I could say it's supposed to be a sitting stance and you do a back stance, which is, it sounds stupid and it's kind of artificial, but if you mess up one stance, you've been training for 4 months, 6 months, a year for your testing. You mess up one stance, you fail. And so
Yep.
there was so much pressure. But I remember I was judging Jordy, and he was supposed to do I don't even know, like a ridge hand or something. And that's where
like my thumb was
his
a
thumb
little
was pointing
off.
out a little bit too much. And I was taking it so seriously. I made him do his form again. And at the end, they were, Mr. Kessler was like, why'd you make him do it? I mean, are you joking around? Like, no, I mean, his thumb was not right. And it was that level.
It probably wasn't. I believe it.
Yeah, it was that level of attention to detail that was just drilled in us. And the way to get there was practice.
You know who I loved because of that? Miss Anatrella. Because she would just rip me apart every time she would help me with a form or anything. She would just not even compliment me. She'd just be like, "Okay, this is wrong. You got to fix this." When you did, it just tear me apart.
I was actually scared of her for a while.
Everyone was scared of her for a while.
But she was really nice.
She's awesome. And that's her name's not Miss Anatrella anymore. It's Ms. Chapman.
Yes.
I think Chapman.
I think
but
so.
when I'm going to call her Miss Anatrella because
we will, because
that's what we
back in the day.
A lot of people hated her, and everyone was afraid of her at first. But she was the one who the most would just tell me
she was like
everything I did wrong.
She was like Professor McGonagall in Harry Potter.
Yeah, nice.
Like you knew that she was on the side of good.
Yep.
But you didn't fuck with her.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved her for that. She was like my favorite instructor to do anything in front of.
Nice.
Yeah.
So another thing.
No slack.
That's right. Another lesson I learned was confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe want to talk about how Taekwondo gave you confidence?
I think, let's see, confidence. Well, once you pass a certain number of testings, and testings, they don't just give them to you. You have to earn.
No, yeah, you got to earn it. I mean, and there's certain requirements where you got to do 4 rounds, and I mean, you're dead tired, and they're sending fresh people at you.
Yeah.
And one of the testings is 2-on-1, and then you got to break boards at the end after you're so tired.
Actually, that's the story I want to go through. So I think that it gave me real confidence, not bravado confidence, but real confidence as in, hey, I just did something that I didn't think that I was going to be able to do. It was all about doing. If you've done something extremely difficult before, then you're like, hey, I did it.
Yeah, I mean, you would, the day before
good.
testing, you were like, I think I'm going to pass. I've trained really hard, but I don't know.
One of my most vivid memories from Taekwondo, actually, and I think you'll agree with this, that gave me a lot of confidence afterwards, was black belt prep class.
Oh. Dude.
Yeah. So what is black belt prep class?
It's basically like a 3-hour class where they just...
It's on a Saturday.
It's on a Saturday. It's going to be fun. We're going to prep you for your black belt.
Oh, gosh.
It's hazing.
It is hazing.
It's just like, hey, I'm going to... I remember Mr. Bird put on this, he built himself a gigantic PVC cup. So he was wearing this big Michelin Man suit. And they were like, spar as hard as you can. And so...
Oh, I forgot about that.
And they basically, it's just and I'm 13. And they're just beat the crap out of you.
Full... Because usually you don't do full contact.
Yeah, usually you don't. Usually it's a little bit like playing tag. It's tactical. It's you get a hit. You both agree, in real life, I could have hit you way harder.
Because you want to spar more than 1 round a day.
Yeah, which I think is a big problem with MMA fighters. They don't understand that yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so black belt prep class was basically full contact cardio. I remember
they would just go. I just remember round after round. They're like, okay, we're gonna do 10 rounds with 30-second breaks in between, and 30 seconds is enough to stop, look at a new person to spar. That's you walk to them, and then it's go.
And I have asthma. My asthma has gotten better, but dude, this entire whole period of everything with Taekwondo was me just kind of manning up through asthma attacks.
I don't think that's a thing, but sure.
It did. It worked.
It worked.
And I remember Danny Piedmont.
Yeah.
He did black belt prep class, and he has this thing where...
Did you do it with him?
No.
Okay.
I don't think.
We didn't do the same one.
He has this thing where, a lot of times when people are pushed to the farthest brink of their psychology, certain crazy things happen.
That was mental.
And he was pushed so far that he started just laughing Because he
Oh,
was at the point where he's
yeah.
about to, like, I mean, he maybe was about to pass out or die.
He did do the
And-
nervous laugh.
And he
thing.
just started, like, laughing. And everyone, all the instructors took that as, like, what? This isn't hard enough for you?
And then just
And they just laid
went
the
hard.
smack
He's
down
like, no,
on him.
stop. I mean, I'm sorry.
And
Are you crying or laughing?
yeah.
Both.
But that's true. I mean, once you can make it through a crucible like that,
I didn't think I was gonna make it through. Like, you're looking at the clock, thinking, "There's no way."
and looking back, you realize, oh, they totally, I mean, it's like a fun environment. They were, they're not going to let you die. Probably, man. They
Probably.
were
Yeah.
going to let you die.
But that was I can't like that was one of the top physically difficult things I've ever done. I think.
So I still get pissed about this. So I didn't ever suffer from confidence issues. I suffered from like, I don't think I was naturally good at it because I remember my first round of Taekwondo, I sparred a girl. She hit me in the face and I ran away. But somehow I got really good.
I didn't know
just
that.
because I practiced a lot.
Yeah.
And so I would just, go to these tournaments and I'd get first place and I'd come back and they'd say, well, how's the tournament? I'm like, it was easy. I mean, come on, dude, have a little humility. I did not. But
Just full blown, just overconfidence. In
yeah,
all
and
respects.
so I had, and most of the time I could back it up. Like it's like when Mike Tyson was talking crap, people were kind of like, whatever, man, because he could back it up.
Yeah.
And so most of the time it was, it was just like, man,
Sure.
I guess he's pretty good. But I remember I didn't practice at all for my board breaking for one testing. 'Cause
Wait, I was there. I
it
watched
was a national tournament.
It was I watched it happen.
Or a national testing. So I'd flown to like Florida to test.
Yep.
And
Part of the testing is you have to break boards with certain kicks and certain
Yeah.
numbers of boards and a hand technique. So
yeah, and so you've got to do your form. It's got to be correct, which is really hard because at a national testing, I mean, everyone knows your
everything's
form.
scrutinized.
Everything's
yeah.
scrutinized. I mean, like Taekwondo America rents out a hotel. There's maybe 500 people that go. It's pretty cool. And then sparring, you got to basically tournament or testing sparring is you've got to demonstrate your mastery of Taekwondo. So you're not trying to win. You're trying to do all the kicks you can perfectly. So
With
you
control,
do the
good
crazy.
timing, yeah.
You're supposed to do the craziest kicks that if you're in a street fight you might not do, but you're supposed to do them
you
in
can
the
pull 'em
most
off,
the
yeah.
most serious sparring environment. You're supposed to be able to execute those perfectly. So I made it through forms. I'm like, okay, I think I got this. I
Yep.
made it through sparring. I'm like, yep, got this. I got to board breaking,
And you're like, psh.
and it was a 3-board side. I remember I tried to do a spin side kick, which was what I had to do, and it was 3 boards, and I missed the first kick.
Yep.
And I remember telling the lady who was holding my boards,
Oh gosh.
I was like, don't worry. I said that. I'm like, I got this. I mean, and it's good, believe in yourself and
Yeah,
stuff.
believe in
but
yourself,
come on,
man.
man. Jesus.
silently believe in yourself.
My second kick, because you got 3 attempts.
You get 3 tries.
Second
yeah.
kick, I missed again.
Oh my god! Just missed the board.
Well, I hit the top right with the top of my foot.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
you're supposed to use your heel.
And you hit the top. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. I still got this, though. And my third try.
And people are this is second attempt, so you're on third now.
I'm on my third attempt.
So
which-
it's like serious because board breaking. If you don't break your board, like
You
that
fail.
trumps everything.
Yeah.
like you're done.
And so I spun, I pulled my leg back, and I didn't break it. And I remember just being like, what?
How is this possible?
How is this possible?
Does not compete.
And it was such a good lesson for me because I realized, oh my God, dude, hey, let's be a little bit humble.
the boards don't care how confident you are.
Yeah, and I went to Mr. Bird and I was like, hey, can you teach me how to do? It was actually it was a jump spin side kick.
Yeah, that
I was
sounds
like-
more right.
I was like, can you teach me how to do jump spin side kick? Which at this time, I mean, I've done thousands of them.
I think like either green or senior green belt was
Yeah.
like when you learned that. Which
And
is
so, I basically was like, I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to relearn.
back to basics.
And he told me is I need to jump way higher. I was trying to do it too low. I need to leap into the air and I need to kick way like 1.5 feet, 2 feet higher than I was trying to do it. And so I had a bag in my basement.
Yep.
I put a duct tape X on it and I probably kicked it, I don't know, 2,000 times. I mean,
Yeah.
I would kick it every single day, just being like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And then you had to wait
That's inspiring,
you had to
though.
wait 6 more months
yeah.
to test because you go to a national tournament.
Those don't happen every weekend.
Yeah. So I waited 6 months every single day, just like hating myself because I'd failed, and then I go to the testing and just pass with flying colors. I mean, like the boards, I was so serious when we set them up. I set them up perfectly.
What if that same lady was holding your boards?
I didn't even care. I was in the zone and just boom, 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 broke them all and then passed. But that taught me a lesson of, hey, when you think you're really confident, good. It's good to have confidence, but you have to realistically appraise your abilities. And I was not. I didn't practice. I mean, looking back, dude, if you're good at something, practice it more so you can just shine.
Yeah, you were confident in that area based on belief more than actual, like, I can do this, like, anytime cold.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And talking about the humility thing, I remember, so I wasn't the best Taekwondo person ever, but I think I was pretty good. We were both pretty good. So we would do well in class all the time. But the thing that I think kept both of us super humble is it didn't matter how good we were. If Mr. Kessler or Mr. Bird or they called you over to spar, it's game over.
Yeah.
It was game over every time. And you could tell they were holding back. That's what makes you more mad.
And the crazy thing is, so even after Taekwondo, when I moved on to MMA, and I was going against pro fighters, and their hands were a little better than me, but my kicks were better. And so, there were pro fighters that I was kind of like getting the best of. And, I hadn't ever really trained MMA, so it was just basically me using traditional Taekwondo sparring against like a pro
knife hands.
A pro fighter. But even then, I'm good. I would spar Kessler, and I would not hit him.
Yeah, and he wouldn't even keep his hands up.
And that's
the
thing,
that?
Dude. He broke my nose because he put his hands down, and I'm like, "Oh, are we stopping?" And then he goes whack and hits me right in the face, and I'm like, that is not good. And then my nose was completely broken. Like, he could have worked on his control, but it was...
It was like, this kid needs a lesson.
Yes, but it was humbling.
Yeah, and I just remember he would not keep his hands up, which you're supposed to keep your hands up when you spar. Like, that's what you learn. But he would not keep his hands up. You just couldn't hit him. And then a hook kick would come out of nowhere and just destroy this out of your head.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even see it. Like, I wouldn't even see it. It was just confusing more than anything.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. So it's like,
and
no matter how good you were, you knew you would always get your butt kicked by this dude. So you can never feel overly confident.
And it's the same. It helps you realize that in everything there's levels. As
totally levels.
Meek Mill says, there's levels to this shit.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Dropping quotes.
Yeah, dude, Meek Mill. What a quote. And so the next thing and we've kind of touched on it, but I think this is one of the most important traits that a human being can have. Taekwondo taught me toughness.
What do you mean by toughness?
Well, going back to just the
durability,
the culture. Well, I'm not very durable. It turns out, my back, but the culture that there's nothing that can break you. That indomitable spirit. But then, truly, I mean, I remember I was testing. I think for my second degree, it was the last testing at the school.
So for your second degree senior.
Yeah, last testing at the school before I had
with
to go.
2-on-1.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
And so you have to do like 5 rounds of sparring individuals in the last round. So, and I mean, just so you know, a 2-minute round of sparring a fresh person when you're just exhausted is really hard because
a long time.
And they're all trying to take advantage of the fact that you're tired.
And they're fresh.
And I'm so nervous. And so I'm having an asthma attack during it. And I get on the last person, and the whole time too, you can kind of skate by, but you're supposed to do with testing sparring, you're supposed to show everything you know. So you're supposed to do like the 360 kicks. You're supposed to do all this stuff.
Those are way more taxing than a jab.
Yeah. Yes, correct. And I remember I was just on my last round, 2-on-1, and I ended up doing really well. But I mean, I was breathing like
2-on-1s were terrible. I mean, I wrote that down as another memorable experience. Like, you're just running, and surviving that round. And
I remember at that Monday instructor meeting, Kessler called
Monday instructor meeting
and was like, "Hey, everyone, you guys should spar like how Holling sparred that one time. And I was
Oh,
like,
were you proud?
yeah, but then, that was like the leading up to not training for the boards and then the ego thing.
Destroyed.
But yeah, I mean, that toughness. And then, I took that and I just went into wrestling, which is a, notoriously hard sport.
A little bit.
And I was just like, okay, there's nothing that can break me. And then there was nothing that could break me. And then I took it into MMA, which is like a pretty tough sport. And I'm like, there's nothing that can break me. And, I never have come across something, except for my back injury. But
you're not broken. You haven't given up on that. You're doing sumo deadlifts.
It's more like it's kind of like you start doing something and there's pain that you can work through. And then there's pain that's like something in your spine is trying to escape out your back.
You're not going to like tough that out.
Yeah. It's like if you have a broken leg, like just run a marathon, dude. Like, well... maybe. No,
that's just being stupid, not perseverance.
But I think that being tough, in anything, like my current job, it kind of sucks. I made a bunch of cold calls today. But you know what? I got yelled at a lot, but I also got an appointment today. And I was pretty pumped about that. And, just that toughness to be like, anything that is thrown at me is fine because... I have an indomitable, like unable to be dominated. Not like I'm pretty tough, but I have a breaking point. And I'm sure, man, if like the Viet Cong tortured me, like Colonel Reader on Jocko Podcast, I would.
Shout out Jocko. We always have to make a reference to Jocko Podcast.
Yeah. I'm sure I'd break. But that toughness is very important.
I agree. I think that the real world's pretty hard, so you got to have some toughness.
Nice.
Do you have another... point?
I do. And this is a relatively large one, but I think we can both relate to this.
Indomitable spirit. Let's go.
That Taekwondo going from, because you got to think, there's some people that maybe naturally get math or they naturally get X or Y. No one naturally knows how to do a 360 sidekick in a full contact sparring match and not fall over.
I broke my heel from a 360 sidekick.
You did, but you know what? That means you kicked with good form.
And you know what else I did?
Kicked the concrete.
Finished the class and dodgeball.
Nice.
With a broken heel.
That's so good. But
my proudest moment today.
So another thing is it was a case study of the path to mastery. Because, famous samurai Miyamoto Musashi says, once you see the way in one thing, you see the way in all things. And looking back now, the fact that I was able to go from running away from a girl because I was so bad to...
She was probably good.
Yeah. Probably. To winning national tournaments when I was like 14 in the men's division. That was all just practice.
You know what was cool about... Side note. I'm sorry. This is a slight tangent. But I loved just the idea of sparring and stuff because sparring doesn't care if... like how old you are or your gender or your age or... Sorry, I'm allergic to Troy's house.
There's lots of animals, dude.
A lot of animals. But that's the thing, though. I remember getting there. There was no... I don't think there's like a stereotype of like, oh, she's a girl. She can't spar well. I remember getting my butt kicked by Young and McGee.
You could always hack that, though, and just start hitting them really hard. But that was not ethical.
Yeah, but if you actually did Taekwondo, like, I remember just getting destroyed by them. And it's like, okay, cool. It doesn't matter. Just anybody can beat you if they're good. I just really liked that about it.
Yeah. No, totally true. But what I was starting to say is, so it's a case study to the path to mastery.
Yep.
Because first of all, it was really good. Like Jordy was talking about, there was incremental improvement. So you start out, you're bad, but then you get a little better.
You're not a white belt, and then you show up that first day, and they're like, okay, you need to be a black belt. No, that's not what they say.
We expect you to be bad.
You need your first strike.
For you to pass your white belt testing, you just have to show reasonable skill at these techniques.
And even within belts, they had 4 stripes per belt that you had to earn. They would take like tape and put a stripe on your belt. And each stripe had a task. You were given a stripe for completing a certain task. So not only was it belt by belt, but it was stripe by stripe. So you saw a direct.
And there was even some like thought process of, oh, he's only a 2-stripe white belt. We can't expect him to know that. I mean, it was seriously, if you look at it now, I mean, it was almost like gamification.
Yeah. Also, talking about stripes, on the other end of your belt, you got like a scorecard, quality card with the white stripe, blue stripe, red stripe. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. So once you passed your testing, they would, oh, dude, that was buried deep. But yeah, so explain it.
So you go to testing, the judges determine you pass. Then there's an award ceremony the following Wednesday.
Oh, with so much food.
Oh, so much food. I loved it. Oh my god.
We're going to have to bleep that out.
I got to do so much bleeping on this one. And during testing, when they were just instructors were deciding if you passed or not, they'd also determine whether to give you a white stripe, a blue stripe, or a red stripe on your belt.
And white stripe meant, hey.
So blue stripe means you did good.
Adequate. Like a B
good.
plus. Like, well, even an A.
Even an A.
A blue stripe is an A. Like, hey, you made it.
Yep.
A white stripe is like a C. Sometimes like a C minus.
It's like you passed with one contingency,
which is like, we think that if you fail again, your family's going to stop paying us, so you pass.
It's like, it's like a warning, like, hey, you passed, but barely. You better,
And then a red stripe.
The rare red stripe.
Which I only got like 2 or 3. You got like 7.
I was going to say, I think I got 5.
Yeah.
Which is...
Because I got better after I was a black belt. You were a little quicker better than me.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my excuse.
Sure. I got like 5, but I don't think that's very common. Not to like be arrogant.
No, I know, dude. You were good.
Okay. But red stripe was like, oh my gosh, not only did you pass, but you did something that caught everyone's eye, that was above and beyond, like they should not be able to do that.
Yeah, like when I was telling that story about the 2-on-1 and the testing, I would have gotten like that. That would be an example of like getting a red stripe for that.
Yep.
If I went and I didn't, because sometimes people get really tired and they start just kicking people in the face.
Yeah.
And, lose all
Lose their control.
But if you do all that, you push through adversity and you really go above and beyond. That's what a red stripe is.
Yeah. So the point is though, that was just, I look back at it now, and now I think of it in terms of like neurotransmitters and social pressure and motivation, incentivizing. It was the perfect system.
Dude, I mean, that's like if you're trying to design a way for someone to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, deep practice, training, forms, practice. Then it's slow, incremental, right at the edge of your abilities, going back to the talent code.
Yep.
Then, it's competition, then gamification. I mean, it's like these Korean masters have known about these things that app developers are like, it's a new idea.
And they're like, dude.
Listen, man.
Also, and I never got one, thank God. I would just be ashamed if I had a white stripe on my
I never
belt.
got a white stripe either.
Yeah, me neither. No way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Because you got to wear that.
Yeah, for a month.
You got to wear it for 2 months.
Oh, 2 months. That's right.
Because the testing was only once every 2 months, I think.
Is that? You're right.
I think you're
right. You're right.
And so you would wear that white stripe around. People would look at you like,
oh, white stripe.
Look at this kid.
Gosh, okay. He's a brown belt, but barely.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what belt is he? Oh, he's a brown. Well, look at that white stripe.
White stripe, brown belt.
Yeah, like.
I don't think anyone else took it that seriously, but I think we did.
Oh, dude, I would have, like, if I would be ashamed. Like, if I had
my head.
I would be there every single day if I'd gotten a white stripe. Like,
I still was. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I would have. Dude, remember in the summer when they had 2 times a day classes?
Oh, because they added day classes in the summer.
And I was just like, okay, I'm going to Taekwondo 2 times a day now.
Yeah, because usually it was in the evenings, but then they added like a 12 or a 1 o'clock. You're like, yep, going to that too.
And I was like, I have a great metabolism. Turns out, dude, that's just what happens if you go to Taekwondo like 6 days a week.
So I swear I'm going to connect this back to Path to Mastery.
Okay.
But I remember, this is one of the things I wrote down. I remember also vividly that I don't know what belt I was. Maybe I was in the colored belt still. But I remember my mom coming to me and saying, hey, you sure you want to go to class that much? And it was out of good intention. She said, I don't want you to get burned out. I know people get burned out with stuff.
Yeah.
And I just remember just feeling like that's a legitimate concern for a lot of cases in life. But for me at that time, it just seemed absurd. I was like, I wish there were more classes, you know?
It's like, can I quit school and go to a Taekwondo school for school?
Yeah, I would do it. But the point is how this relates to mastery is that's one of the biggest things I think that I learned from that is not necessarily how good you are, but I think a lot of the reason we were so good is that we showed up so much. Just showing up.
And we were obsessed. It was, Robert Greene in his book Mastery talks about you have to hold out to the cycle of accelerating returns. And what that means is when you start anything, you're crappy. And maybe you're crappy for a month, maybe you're crappy for a year, but everyone starts out and they're bad. And what he says when he's teaching people through the process of mastery is you just hold out until you start to see that progress. Because once you see the progress, he says that
it starts becoming a reward in and of itself.
Yeah, and you can practice the activity for hours endlessly for its own benefit.
Seth Godin calls this the dip.
The dip, that's actually true, yeah. That guy. I've been sharing some of his blog posts because they're a reason they make me look good on LinkedIn, but I still don't like him too much. But
that's fine.
But yeah, so that's a huge thing. And another case study part of getting to mastery is practice your weak points until they're strong points. There was a huge culture of, there was I'm left-handed. Like, what do you mean by that? Why can't you throw your left leg and your right leg the same?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
You're like, oh, so wait, so I don't have to be left or right footed? Like, no, we
Not
expect
if you practice your left foot a million times. Although I was left footed.
I was too, but that's because I don't know.
Oh, I think it's because if you're right-handed, your right hand's in the back and your left foot's in the front.
So my left foot was really good, but
my right foot, like on spin kicks.
But there was this one time that I was very bad at hands. So I was always really good at kicks.
Oh yeah.
But I was bad at hands.
And then you spar young.
And and she would beat me up with punches.
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
What the heck?
Yep.
And I remember John Keck, that guy.
Oh
he was bigger than me. He'd taken some high school football lifting classes, and I'd just been teaching myself in the basement, and I was
doing 400 jump lunges.
Yeah, I was holding 45-pound weights and vomiting in my toilet, being like, why do I feel so sick, Mom? Maybe I should stay home from school.
Maybe I should lift more.
Not connecting the dots that, like, if you hold 45-pound weights in each hand and do jump lunges, you're gonna vomit. But he was bigger than me, and we'd go to tournaments, and he would just punch me, and he would get all the points. He'd punch me out of the ring.
Yep.
And I was like, and he beat me in like 4 or 5 tournaments.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just was like stewing about it.
Yeah. That didn't go over well with you.
No. And so finally, I was like, Kessler, what do I do? He's like, you need to get better at hands.
It's obvious from the outside, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
So then Eric DeWitt and I said, hey, DeWitt.
I remember this.
There's always in Taekwondo classes or martial arts classes, there's always someone who's like your arch nemesis.
Yeah.
Eric DeWitt is my arch nemesis.
Is. Not was.
That's right.
Is.
Yeah. And he could totally kick my ass right now because he's like a purple belt at jiu-jitsu.
Oh, he's killing it. Yeah.
And I mean, whatever. But so we were like 13, and we're like, hey, we're gonna learn how to use hands. So at the end, At the end of class, we would just stay in full contact box.
Yep.
And which basically meant we would just punch each other in the face.
Yep.
And Kessler, like, not help us through the process, teach us some drills, teach us the rudimentary things of boxing. He'd look on like, that's right. Man up.
You know what? I'm glad he did that because he didn't need to say anything.
Dude, but
he didn't need to.
Okay, maybe. But when I started training MMA, my boxing was like just street brawler. I mean, and they were like, "Hey, well, you need to hit with, don't hit as hard every time." I'm like, what? I learned how to box by just full contact boxing until I could kind of do it.
But you learned a lesson.
Yeah, but I got pretty good.
Yeah, I remember after classes we went on this streak for a while where we would play bloody shins on the heavy bag.
Oh, yep.
So, want to talk about what bloody shins is?
Yeah, it sounds, well, it's pretty bad, but basically when you lift weights, your muscles go through the stress, recovery, and adaptation curve, and you stress them, you recover, they get bigger. Turns out you can do the same thing with bones. And so we were like, hey.
We probably saw some movie or documentary or something.
I know what it was. There was that documentary thing about different martial arts on like Spike TV.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's all coming back. And there was the guy from Taekwondo who he was pretty cool. He's pretty fast, whatever. But they showed someone hitting their shins with a baseball bat, like this old Muay Thai master, to toughen up their shins. And in Thailand, they'll kick
Those dudes are
banana
crazy.
trees.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay,
Yep,
cool.
gonna do
we
that
went.
now.
We just kicked the bottom of the heavy bag where all the sand.
Yeah, so a heavy bag is just like a giant leather bag filled with sand. So the bottom of it
Because no one really kicks the bottom.
No, you're not supposed to kick the bottom. It's ridiculous.
Because that's where all the sand goes.
So yeah, gravity. It's reasonable about chest level, but at the bottom it's a rock.
Yeah, it's basically like you're kicking
Like a tree.
You're kicking a slightly lighter version of a tree.
Yep.
And we would just kick that until our shins were bleeding.
And then it was kind of like playing bloody knuckles, but not with each other, just with a bag.
Because the bag would always win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
we did that several times.
and I don't really know how that relates to the path. Okay, so this relates to the path to mastery because you need to be unreasonable in the pursuit of your goals.
Sure.
And the last thing I'd say is there were endless variables to practice because, even though, and this really helps underscore the idea of mastery, that even though you know all the kicks, even though, you can do a spin side kick, a 360 side kick, a jab across a hook, all this stuff, can you do every single one of those techniques perfectly all the time in the highest stakes sequence of sparring?
That's how you use it. If you use it.
And I remember I would come in and Kessler's been doing martial arts for 20 years.
Gosh.
And I'd see him practicing a side kick on the bag.
Which is like the day one kick that you learn.
Yes, that's like
The first one. Maybe front kick is first.
Yeah.
And then side kick.
But I mean, and that's like you seriously,
Yeah.
you go and you see Peyton Manning pretending like he doesn't know how to throw, or, throwing a ball without the ball, just moving his arm, just practicing moving his arm through space. I mean, it was such a simple thing, but
What's that Bruce Lee thing? Like, I do not fear the man who's practiced 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times.
Yeah. And there was a culture of that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you know how to do this kick, but do you know it so well in your bones that you couldn't mess it up if you were on fire? And once you realize that there was that level of depth, and then even let's say, which it was it would take you years to get to this level, but let's say you're perfectly proficient with every single one of the kicks. So front kick, jump front kick, 360 front kick, side kick, spin side kick, 360 side kick, all the variations, both feet, every single way, all these different combinations. Let's say you're so proficient with that. Well, there's still millions of ways that you could use that in a sparring match. I mean, just because now it's like, okay, now we're on the level playing field. We're all just as good with this. Now it becomes tactics. And I mean...
Yeah, it's not who has the better kicks. It's what can you do with them kicks.
Yeah, I remember I used to do a spin round kick, which is a really weird kick.
It's not even a kick.
Yeah, because you spin around and then you kick from a completely different angle.
So that was just deception.
Yeah, or like I would do...
Or front rounds,
boom,
I would.
I would lead with stupid stuff that would like be a mistake, and then people would think, "Oh my god, he can't be making that mistake." But and then I would just kind of use it in a combination, and it taught me that, I mean, any task has just limitless depth. So don't be like, well, I know how to do it. Well, do you know how to do it for real?
But so I think the separation is you learn things out of context, and then you learn how to use those things within a context. Like you can study vocabulary, but can you write a book?
Yes.
Right? So,
yeah. And then when you can write a book, can you write a masterpiece?
Yeah, can you change someone's life with your writing? I mean, that's different. So one thing that I was going to say about indomitable spirit, which is different from not breaking the board, but I just remember this. I think I was a senior blue belt. I remember in testing I was sparring with Max Lemur, and he was sort of my nemesis. Yeah, he was sort of my nemesis in like a friendly way.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that kid had long hair. He was pretty cool.
He was good.
He'd wear tie-dye shirts, and
we compete with each other.
He was a skater, and And I
Then
remember
he became a football player and stuff. And
yeah, I'm like, dude, you're 13, but you act like you're 18.
he is pretty good. So we would compete. It was fun to have him in class when we were both in class at the same time. It was awesome. But I was sparring him for testing in one of my sparring rounds. And I remember I was going to do a butterfly kick, which was one of the kicks you got to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I was a blue belt then.
Yeah, because testing, like, it's not like you don't have to just go out there and do a good job. You have to at least do one or two of each of the kicks of Taekwondo.
Yeah. It's not like adequate. It's like, no, you got to be better this time.
And you got to do it right.
You got to do it right. Well, here's how I did it not right. So I do a butterfly kick, but a right butterfly kick, and I landed from the air on my left ankle. And I just sprained my ankle super bad in the middle of that testing. So I fall down and I'm just like, oh my God, my ankle.
What have I done?
I'm going to die. Well, needless to say, I couldn't stand up and finish testing.
Oh, dude, I remember this. Yeah.
You remember this?
Yeah.
So I had to be like carried out of the school. And I just remember when I was in the ground. So I mean, Troy and I were super dedicated and like obsessed with it. I was just ashamed when I sprained my ankle, right? It's not like a shameful thing, but I was like, oh my God, I can't spar anymore. That means I can't finish testing. That means I can't pass.
I remember.
Oh my God.
I will say I remember kind of thinking in my mind like, bitch.
Yeah, probably. And you know what? I wouldn't even have blamed you, but that was just huge for me. And guess what happened? Nothing happened. Actually, people like clapped a little bit because they were like, hey, it's cool, you know. And you go to class. When your ankle's better, you go to class. I mean, nothing happens. You can fail completely, and it's fine.
Yeah. And
was holding that sneeze in. Woo!
And I think the last thing, and this is a lot more specific to me, but so there's this great book called Strengths Finders 2.0.
I did mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share what mine are in a minute.
Okay, dude, that's interesting.
Or now.
So it's basically like personality profile, and it's what drives you, and you find your strengths. And the premise of the book is, you know, you go.
Wait, now I'm curious what yours are.
And you're supposed to do things in your strength. And so for me, my number one strength is competition, which, looking back, like, duh, I once threw up in my friend's sink because we had a water drinking contest. And I'm like, I'm going to win. And then
Wait, I remember one time we played this game. Maybe it was at Langlois' house or something, or someone's house, where we just put our hand on the table in a stack of hands, and whoever's hand was on the bottom, you would just take your hand out from the bottom and smack whoever's hand was on the top.
And Langlois only lost because his hand started bleeding, which, think about that. Your hand starts bleeding from a slap, and he yelled Scotland. Because
he had
he's
a
Scottish.
sock in his mouth, biting down on it.
We weren't normal,
we were crazy
we?
Kids.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
you know,
Strengths
for me,
Finder.
Well, so for me, my Strengths Finder is it's competition, focus is the second one, achievement is the third one, learning is the fourth one.
I had that one.
And then the fifth one is some crap like I like to build relationships with people. I think I need to retake it, but no, I don't. So, but that was mine. What were yours? Do you remember?
Oh gosh. So I think mine was learner.
Okay.
For sure. Futurist. So I apparently imagine how things could be in the future a lot, or like think of ideas of how we could do something differently. I was like, that's true. We do that all the time. I feel like we both do that all the time. Like individualization or something, which is like I can notice unique strengths in people or something. Activator, which is someone who like tends to make something happen. And then it was like developer, which is I can't remember what that was. Oh, like trying to like encourage people or develop people's strengths. Like,
dude, that's so interesting. But and it also gives you insight into how you should set up your life.
Yeah.
So now I just always make sure that, you know, like, okay, so there's great examples of Dan Gable or like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan would make up reasons to hate somebody so he could compete against them. He'd be like, and this guy's talking crap about me. And then the dude wouldn't have, but he would just like mind F himself until he just was driving himself like a slave driver.
And he'd probably win,
because he's
too.
like, I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat this guy who's talking crap about my mom. My mom's dead.
Oh, God.
And then like none of that happened, and he just won. So I try to set up competition in my life. But looking back,
Healthy competition's good, man.
looking back though, yes, that's part of the reason that I wanted to succeed so much, because it's like, oh, competition, boom. But I mean, for me, those are all the points I wrote down. Dude, but I mean, just as a whole, giving yourself to something totally, and something you really like, and just going through the whole process of not knowing it to knowing it perfectly is a great thing. That's now looking back, I can do that to anything, and I've done that to other things.
Yeah, and not just that we knew it perfectly. We just got pretty good. But I think one more thing that I couldn't really find a way to sneak this in, but specifically that I learned from being an instructor and like having to teach kids Taekwondo is I remember learning this lesson of it's not the kid's fault if they're not engaged. Like you need to be a better instructor and be more engaging. And I take that to anything that I do with performance or music or anything like that. A lot of people will get salty and angry, like, well, they just don't understand. I'm like, if they're not clapping, sort of on you, isn't it? Like, dude, it's sort of on you.
There's this great book I read called Extreme Ownership by How
Wait,
Navy SEALs
who's it
Lead
by?
and Win.
Who's it by?
By Jocko Willink.
Oh, Jocko Willink.
And actually, that's his whole thesis. So it's interesting that you thought of that.
Yeah, I remember learning that, and that's just kind of been a lesson that I've taken with me. Another thing that I remember is that I just couldn't fit in. This is just miscellaneous a la carte lessons. I remember I was in an in-school tournament. So it was a tournament, but just with people from our Taekwondo school. And I was sparring this kid. He was like my age, but I'm not making fun of him. I think he had some like mental issues or some kind of...
was it that kid that poops on the floor? We won't name him. He's apparently cool now.
That might have been the same dude. Maybe.
Very tan.
Oh, I don't know if he was very tan, but... I remember I was sparring him, and he would like turn a lot and just put his back towards me, or just do something crazy that you don't do. And if in Taekwondo, if you hit someone in their back, it's a warning.
Yeah, which is why doing jump spin side kicks in tournaments was so good, because people
just kick you in the back.
Like, oh, warning for you.
Yeah, hack that. But I remember he would just do that, and it was really hard to spar him, and I got 3 warnings because I kicked him in the back 3 times or something like that.
Yeah. And
I got disqualified from like the sparring. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just felt ashamed again. And I remember I was feeling super bad about that. I mean, looking back, you shouldn't have felt bad about that. But when that happens the first time, you do. And I remember like Young and Kessler, they like wrote DQ Club on my board that I broke. And they're like, you're part of the DQ Club now. And I was just like, what? That's a cool thing? That's a club? You know? And it just kind of means, hey, now you've actually failed or done something where you totally screwed up. Welcome to the club. Now you're like really in it. And I felt like I still carry that with me. It's like, you can be good, but you're not really in the game
until you
just
failed.
Just completely like just get disqualified or failed testing or something. Like,
I think I've seriously only failed one testing, and it was that one at the national level.
But and it's like now you can talk. Now you've been in it, so I still carry that with me. It's and remember that DQ Club,
dude. And so we're just getting a little long-winded, which is cool because it's our podcast. What
long form content.
But yeah, man, I can't wait until in a year I'm starting jiu-jitsu, and it's gonna be the same thing, except I think it's gonna be 10 times more knowledge, because
it's gonna be hard, man, because you're gonna be forced to humble yourself,
and I'm gonna be forced to use perfect technique.
Yep.
You know, like, because fellow listeners, I lift weights all the time. I wrestled, so my jiu-jitsu was basically like, let me use my wrestling and then my strength to just choke you with no technique.
I'm imagining you grappling with Jocko Willink when you were like that.
Oh, he would have just ashamed me.
Or like some black belt that's 145 pounds.
Like Ming?
Yeah.
Ming. Dude, my arm still has 30 degrees extra range of motion
so Troy
from
just,
Ming.
Troy just extended his arm. It looks like it slopes down.
Yeah. Yeah, because Ming armbarred the shit out of it. And because I was like, I'm not going to tap. And I was doing the full gorilla, trying as hard as I could. And he was so nice the whole time. And
he was like, oh, you're still not tapping? One more inch.
Yeah. And Dude, I remember
Gotcha.
I had to learn how to throw a football with my left hand because Ming. But yeah, so it's gonna be great. I'm totally excited to just
excited
suck
for it too.
for like 3 years,
Solid.
and then hopefully like accelerating returns kicks in like a year, but
Maybe.
we'll see.
Hey, we should, to wrap this up, answer a couple questions we
Yeah.
got from the interwebs.
Nice.
So
yeah, we're just experimenting with format, everyone. So if you like some stuff, you don't like some stuff, we're
Let us know.
trying some different things. Some podcasts are real conversational. Others are book reports. And
remember how we said Troy just said he's going to suck for 3 years? Similar concept with
yeah,
podcasting.
we're probably gonna suck for at least 10 episodes.
At least. This is episode 4, by the way, for those of you keeping track at home. So, Miss Young asked, what time is it? This should be interesting, but it's not live, so it'll be this weekend. And then that was beautiful. Our next question, this is sort of more for Troy, but the body image pushed on athletes and the eating disorders or unhealthy habits that occur because of it. So we'll talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Initial thoughts.
So thanks for the question. I'm like so hilariously actually not the right person to ask this because I'm sure there's real science and crap behind this stuff. But okay, so first things first, we can deconstruct that. And you used a very nice persuasion technique that I like to use called the assumptive question. You know, in a silly example, it's like, so when did you stop beating your wife? What? In a good assumptive question, people just don't know how to respond to it.
Like, do you want to sign this deal now or later?
Yeah, or like
something.
there was so back in the day.
Do you want the red or the blue card?
Yeah, at Angie's List, there was a guy who was wanting to cancel his advertising because he got a bad review.
Okay.
And it wasn't for his company. It was like seriously an accident, and I could make that go away immediately. But he'd been stewing for a couple months, and I called him. He's like, "Man, I want to cancel this stuff. I got a bad review." And somehow I channeled my assumptive sales training, and I said, "When you called me and told me about this, what did our conversation sound like?" And he was just like, I didn't know I was supposed to call. I'm like, yeah, man. I made it go away, and it was fine. So, first of all, nice assumptive question, but I'm going to have to take a little different tact because...
Wait, what do you mean? How is it assumptive?
Well, it's assumptive like all these body image issues pushed on athletes. I don't think there's anything pushed on anybody. I mean, maybe there's certain... Okay, the way I look at it is you got to lift, you got to be big. I mean, everyone should aspire to look like a Greek god. And that's a total like, oh, society's conditioned you. But no, art. Stick with me.
He's got a point. Hold out.
So why do human beings like art? I don't know. Like explain art to an animal. I mean, it's useless. Like you put some colors on some stuff and like there's no function. And that's the beauty of art. There's no function to it. And I think that the same part of the brain that likes art also recognizes that there's certain human forms that look better than others. And now, I mean, apparently some people like the dad bod and crap like that. But if you look back, 2,000 years ago, Greek statues, they were jacked. And so I think that, these things pushed on men, stuff like that. I mean, I totally disagree. I think that everyone should look like Leonidas or at least be lifting, eating a good diet. And it's totally attainable if you read The Scientific Principles of Strength Training by Dr. Mike Israetel. You can have it too.
Cool.
That's my answer.
Well, I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to just go completely different direction.
Yeah.
Because
body image issues are good. They're motivating.
I think you have a good point, but I just personally, I think you answered a different question. Like, should we aspire to be healthy individuals? Yes.
No, dude, not even healthy, like aesthetic.
Sure. And I could go here, but
like Greg Plitt.
Like Greek goddess statues was a phase in artistic eras that did not last forever. It definitely fluctuated about what was ideal. So That's just I could argue that, but I'm not going to go there because that's not the point.
Okay.
But I think that what sticks out to me is maybe it's pushed on people because of like magazine covers and media, and that creates a false expectation. If everyone on Taekwondo America magazine, which I don't think exists, had red hair, after a while we might start to believe that we need to have red hair to be good at Taekwondo because the famous people have red hair. But that might be oversimplifying it. But I think that it's not necessarily a good thing to just push that image on people, but unfortunately that's apparently the image that sells more magazines, when in reality there's a lot of great MMA fighters who aren't just ready to step on stage at a bodybuilding competition. You know, it's not really about how you look, it's about how you perform. So while I think it can be a real issue,
But I would say they're fat.
Sure.
But I also, I mean, I
them.
wrestled, and like, you know, it took me like 6 or 7 years to not open up my pantry and just be like, go. So I for sure had some body image issues, but I will say it's more like I just have high standards.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's about what you value. So if you value looking just chiseled, go into bodybuilding, then obviously that's the point of it. But if you're playing soccer, if you're a goalie, the point is how good of a goalie you are, not how jacked you look.
Now, dude, I have to tell you something. It's so funny.
Let's go.
So when I was training for the MMA fight, that got cut short because I got trench mouth for like didn't eat for 12 days, and then like right when I got back, Kessler broke my nose. But so,
good times.
I know. That's right. But so I've always lifted for size because like I want to be big and aesthetic, like Greg Plitt, Arnold, duh. You know, I don't want to be some little GSP looking character, which he looks good. But so Kessler was like, I was apparently really slow because my shoulders were getting such a big pump when we were practicing the punches. I was seriously like slow motion. And he's like, hey, when you lift, like he's like, you're still lifting a lot, right? And he's like, you shouldn't lift anymore. I'm like, I'm going to quit the school right now. I'm not stopping lifting. And he's like, okay, well, you just need to do it more explosively then. So I was like, okay, I will. And I didn't.
That's fine. But anyway, I think that if you measure... I heard this said one time. People are always better than you if you compare yourself to them in a way that makes them better than you. And that's overly simple, but super true. So if you if you think how good of a swimmer you are is someone's a better swimmer than you because they look better than you, I think that you're going to lose that game because there's probably a lot of people who look better than you and me and everyone.
That's true.
But let's just look at your swim times instead.
It all depends on your goals, for sure. My certain goals are aesthetic.
Yeah, the rules of your game is aesthetic, so that makes sense. But I think for anyone else, if you're a swimmer or you're, I don't know.
Like, let's look at powerlifting. Like, you know, the rules of the game are get as strong as possible. So you know what powerlifters are? They're just big, round, panda type people who can lift so much.
They're very panda-like.
So we totally didn't answer your question.
We talked about it, though.
Everyone should lift. That's what's up. Next question.
Cool. Measure yourself in the right ways, I think. But it's hard with society. Next question. Sean. Sean's been killing it with the questions. He's our number one fan.
Oh, dude.
We love Sean.
You mean our only fan?
That's what I meant.
Wait, and that one person who I was really mean to last week.
Who are you mean to?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Everyone.
He said, fellow Taekwondoer here.
Oh, yes.
One of the things I struggled with in Taekwondo was overreaching on kicks. I would overextend or try too hard and end up hurting myself or others in the process. I did this because I was trying to emulate more advanced members of the class before I had mastered the basics. Over time, I learned to center myself and trust my own abilities rather than consistently overreaching. This translated to my own life. He's like answering his own question. Outside of martial arts, in that I always measured my worth by the abilities of others and would overreach in an attempt to fit in. Had I taken the time to master my level, I would have been more successful in the long run and perhaps fostered more positive relationships in the process. Perhaps you've had a similar experience that can help make the lesson more resonant within your own narrative. Actually, I think that's very resonant. That was the end of the quote. So to me, whenever I do something where I, quote, overreach, whether this in Taekwondo or other fields, it's because I'm hiding and I don't want to do the actual work. I just want to look like I'm better. And that's not to call you out, Sean. Everybody does that in some regards, but I think that's what that is. What do you think?
Okay, so
Go.
I can totally see what you're saying, that, you know, if you've taken the time and you've been comfortable and you've been able to work on it on your own, then that's fine. But man, because of, you know, my number one motivator is competition, I am such a big fan of just committing my corpse to something I'm not able to do 100%, and then just slave driving myself by competing against every other person that is like really good until I get better in, you know, 3 months. What would have taken me a year if I've been trying on my own, you know. So like that's,
I don't think that's what he means. I think he means doing kicks incorrectly to make it feel like you're doing the kick better. Like maybe if you just leave your foot in the air for a second longer and fall forward, you hit them, but it's not a good side kick.
I understand, but sometimes
not
you've
trying
got
harder.
No, yeah. I know, but like for example, let's look at wrestling. Okay. So
let's go.
I started wrestling sophomore year of high school, which is so ridiculously late.
Yeah.
And I just threw myself into it and like was so bad. I didn't even understand the concept of takedowns, but I just stuck at it and was so competitive against everyone else. Not like competitive like I was doing well, but competitive like, you'll never beat me. Oh, you beat me. You got me this time. You'll never. Oh, you got me again. And so, you know, I can totally see what you're saying. Like it makes sense, and it probably does make sense to make sure you practice those techniques and practice it all, and that you're comfortable and that you're really good. But then it also makes sense to force yourself out of your comfort zone. And you just got to make sure you don't, you know, like think of the example, if you don't know any Spanish at all and you go and you try to live in Mexico, that's going to be really, really, really hard. That's kind of what you're talking about. You're right. You don't want to throw yourself into something like, I don't want to sell my way into a computer coding job. I don't know how to code. But what I like to do is, let's say I kind of know how to code and I get a job where I need to know how to code. I like to get there and then compete against everyone else. And in like a couple months, I'm kind of barely on par with them. And then in 6 months, I'm there. But so, yeah, I think it's a tough balance because, you know, but I always err on the side of just throwing myself deep in the deep end.
Yeah, and he was talking about maybe we've had similar experiences, and I'm still taking this. I think I know what you mean by overreaching, so I'm just using it
maybe
as...
saying over-rotating?
Overreach. He said it multiple times. I think he means overreach. I'm guessing. But I don't think we use that term, so I'm guessing. But maybe, I think what he means is somehow he's doing the kicks or punches in a way that's kind of cheating. That, because he's talking about how it's kind of messed up relationships with other people by doing it. So I'm imagining if you like sort of punched but just pushed people.
It's also a deep, convoluted metaphor, and we think we're on the same track.
We think.
But it's good.
Like if you just like punched people and shoved people, it's like you're not really good at punching. You're just... gaming it. You know what I mean? That's not really trying harder than other people. That's
just... the movie Green Street Hooligans?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I remember that. So remember how bad their technique was? And Elijah Wood, Frodo, was he would just windmill punch.
Yeah.
And so I think that, yes, on one end, you're so just on one end, and you're just windmill punching, you're just going crazy. Then on the other end is you're just really careful, and you're only throwing punches when you're totally comfortable. And I think what's perfect is you gotta push it. You gotta maybe throw a couple haymakers, but still do good form.
You know, the best thing to happen is that you completely overcommit and you overreach and do all the things, and then someone much better than you is just like, okay, cool, and just destroys you because you have such bad technique. And then you're like, okay, and
then you're like, teach me.
Yeah,
and then that works.
You're like, maybe I should rethink this
because you'd never get as good. Like when I first started my job at Angie's List long ago, I was in member sales, so I had to sell memberships. And I was sitting by a bunch of newbies, and all of us were horrible. And then they changed up our desks, and I got transferred to sit down with the best. Like there was a little group of the people who were the best, who had the best close rate. And those 2 months, I was just like, okay, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And I'm like, I'm just gonna say exactly the same words in the same exact tone that they do, and see if it works. And it did.
Boom.
So I think you got to strike a balance because you're right. You can't just be a
Yeah, I remember
wild
doing
man,
that.
but you can't be too timid.
It's a cool topic. I like that. Thanks for commenting. That was cool
Thank
to
you,
talk
sir.
about. Anyway, well, I think that wraps up our podcast, man.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a good time.
It was a little more conversational. Comment if you like it. If you hate it, don't comment because we get our feelings hurt.
Yeah, if you
No,
loved it,
you
let
can.
us know.
We like feedback. Let us know.
For sure. Cool. That wraps up episode 4 of the Brainrack podcast.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Bye.